Hello, I'm James Izimoha. Welcome to Africa News, where we bring you the latest updates from across the African continent. Let's see your headlines. The United Nations condemns church attack in northeast Congo that left 43 people dead. Thousands of Sudanese citizens return home following the recapture of key cities by the Sudanese army. Nigerian nurses stage first strike in 40 years over poor working conditions. In Nigeria, a rare nationwide strike by nurses is unfolding for the first time in 4 decades. The week-long action has left patients unattended in public hospitals, exposing long-standing grievances in the country's overstretched health sector.
Hospitals in Nigeria are overwhelmed as nurses stage their first nationwide strike in 40 years. The walkout follows unmet demands over working conditions, pay and staff shortages. With workstations abandoned, patients are left in pain and without care. Patients say their suffering has gone unheard, while nurses argue the government has ignored repeated warnings.
It's not easy. Even when doctors are around, it's not easy. Especially this one, when I have not seen them. I'm very serious pain. Nobody to attend to me. In fact, I don't know where the help will come from. But I pray, may God help me to survive on this situation that I'm seeing now. Because I'm not seeing anything good on this my condition again now.
Nurses say they understand the patient's pain, but argue the crisis reflects years of silence from those in power.
We have suffered enough. We have suffered a lot. People are sick, and this is the same health sector that will take care. It's like we are taking care of people, but honestly, we are heroes unsung. Nobody wants to reckon with what nurses are going through. So we are grossly understaffed. The shortage is enormous and is telling on generality of the nurses.
Union officials say the strike covers all nursing categories nationwide and may continue if demands are not met.
Nurses are involved. All nurses of all categories are involved, except the head of the department. From top to bottom, all services are to be shut down. No exemption. And the strike started 12 midnight today, yesterday, 12 midnight, to terminate on 12 midnight on Wednesday. That's next week, Wednesday.
The strike is scheduled to end in 1 week, but union leaders warn it could extend unless the government engages. With no backup plans in place, the walkout is already testing the limits of an overstretched health system.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, the United Nations has condemned the church attack in the northeast of the country that left 43 people dead. The massacre has been attributed to the Allied Democratic Forces rebel group, reportedly affiliated to the Islamic State. A news correspondent, Chris Ocharimga, has more from Kinshasa.
A group of armed men raided a Catholic church in the town of Komanda in the northeast of the DRC on Sunday night and killed worshippers who had gathered for a vigil. 9 of those killed are children. The Congolese army has blamed the killings on members of the Allied Democratic Forces rebel group ADF. The group is composed of Islamists who are originally from Uganda. They crossed to eastern DRC in 2002 and have been accused of committing serious human rights violations here. The ADF is also reported to have links to the Islamic State. A member of the militant group has claimed responsibility for the attack on the church in Komanda. The United Nations peacekeeping mission has expressed outrage at the killings and urged the DRC government to carry out an investigation and bring those responsible to justice. The massacre comes 3 weeks after another attack by suspected rebels of the ADF left 82 people dead in Ituri and North Kivu provinces. The Congolese army has vowed to track down the rebels. Chris Ochamringa for A News in Kinshasa.
Still in the DRC, the M23 rebels have captured 2 villages in the east of the country after fierce clashes with a pro-government militia known as Wazalendo. The seizure of the villages comes barely 2 weeks after the rebels and the DRC government signed a peace declaration in Qatar aiming to end the conflict through dialogue.
Fighting between the M23 rebels and the Wazalendo militia erupted in Masisi territory, forcing hundreds of residents to flee the area. Many of them fled into forests and are now facing harsh conditions, with aid agencies unable to reach them due to ongoing insecurity. Local officials say the M23 rebels defeated the Wazalendo militia allied to the DRC government and are now in control of the villages of Ngululu and Dete. The capture of these villages is a violation of a permanent ceasefire that both sides committed to on July 19th when they signed a declaration of principles in Qatar. Despite calls from the US and Qatari governments to uphold the agreement, the fighting has continued. Fresh troop reinforcements by the M23 rebels and the DRC army have been reported in the east of the DRC, raising fears that a full-scale conflict could soon reignite. Chris Ochamringa for A News in Kinshasa.
Tanzania has barred foreign nationals from engaging in 15 key business sectors. The move is aimed at empowering local entrepreneurs and protecting small-scale enterprises, according to government officials. They say it's in line with the country's investment code and national development priorities. Daniel Kicho has more.
The directive covers areas such as retail trade, transportation, real estate brokerage, mobile money operations, food vending, beauty salon sectors, which are traditionally seen as accessible entry points for small-scale investors. Officials argue that foreign participation in these areas has undermined opportunities for Tanzanians, especially youth and women in the informal sector. The government insists that the policy will not impact medium or large-scale foreign investors who remain welcome in sectors such as manufacturing, infrastructure and technology. But the announcement has triggered backlash. Critics warned it could backfire, deferring small foreign investors and could also fuel trade tensions within the East African community. Some business analysts say the policy may also complicate efforts to harmonize investment laws and mobility within the East African single market, a key pillar of one of the regional bloc's long-term economic visions. Diplomats and chambers of commerce reportedly are seeking clarification on how the ban will be enforced and whether current foreign-owned businesses in those affected sectors will be allowed to continue operating. Officials maintain that enforcement will be gradual and involve sensitization campaigns to ensure smooth transition and prevent disruptions. Still, the decision marks a significant shift in Tanzanian investment landscape, and experts warn it could set a precedent followed by other African nations. Daniel Kijo, A News in Dar es Salaam.
Thousands of Sudanese are returning from Egypt, hopeful for stability. It comes after the government regained control of Khartoum and surrounding states from RSF fighters earlier this year. Our correspondent Naba Mohideen reports from Port Sudan.
Hundreds of thousands of Sudanese families are voluntarily returning from Egypt and other neighboring countries after being displaced for more than 2 years because of the fighting between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces that erupted in the capital Khartoum on April 2023 and displaced over 13 million Sudanese people internally and abroad. People went to neighboring countries including Egypt, Eritrea, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Chad, Central Africa and Libya. But Chad, Egypt and South Sudan are the countries that welcomed and received the highest numbers of Sudanese refugees. People are returning after the Sudanese army recaptured the capital Khartoum on March 2025, and before that it recaptured Al Jazeera state in Central Sudan on January of the same year. Despite the bad conditions and the situation in Khartoum, but the Sudanese government vowed to rebuild main civilian infrastructure, including power plants, water plants, Khartoum airport, in order to encourage more families to rebuild the capital and to return to their homes. Regarding the situation on the ground in Khartoum, the bad life conditions and security situation is still not very stable, but fighting is still going on in other regions in Sudan, including Kordofan, Darfur, between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces. RSF are trying to control Al-Fashir as it's the last stronghold for the Sudanese army, and they are also trying to sustain and to control main cities and roads in Kordofan that links Western Sudan and Kordofan region to Darfur. Fighting is still intensified and Al-Fashir is under besiege. That, of course, raises the risk of famine for hundreds of thousands of Sudanese who are still trapped in Al-Fashir. The situation on the ground is still on escalation. Famine is threatening millions of Sudanese people, and the political resolution, of course, is not on the side, especially after the last initiative of resolving the Sudanese crisis has been postponed to a unnamed date. Naba Muhyiddin for News, Port Sudan in Sudan.
Coastal erosion is reshaping the southern Mediterranean shoreline in Tunisia, placing lives, livelihoods and heritage at growing risk. Residents say each season leaves fewer beaches and more exposed rock.
Erosion now affects more than a third of Tunisia's beaches, with areas like Hammamet losing up to 8 metres annually, according to the World Bank. In Kerkena, residents say the land is disappearing before their eyes, with tourism, fishing and local traditions all under threat. Fishermen say what was once sandy coastline is now submerged rock, creeping closer to homes and businesses.
In 5 more years, the water will reach that point. There'll be no beach left. You won't find any shore. When the tide comes in, you can already see it. It's obvious this is happening. The water level is rising here and across all of Kerkena, but it's most noticeable in this area.
Local experts warn that the damage is both environmental and human-made and worsening over time.
30% of Tunisia's coastline is threatened by coastal erosion or exposed to the impacts of climate change. As part of Tunisian-German cooperation and the Tunisian Coastal Protection Project, approximately 11 kilometers of the Kerkena Islands have been scheduled for protection against coastal erosion and sea surges across 7 areas.
Authorities say more than 60 islands face high risk of submersion. While some locals have taken up small-scale repairs, scientists warn that without stronger national intervention, much of Tunisia's coastline may be permanently altered.
Well, that's all we have today in Africa News. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to A News.